Welcome to the show. My name is James Nielsen Watt, and in this show, we interview interesting, inspiring, and successful people so you can learn the secrets to success and can play the game of life, business, health, and happiness better. And the philosophy we take here is if I'm leveling up my game, you get to level up yours as well. So get ready to listen to some inspiring people who have figured out how to have success in all areas of life: health, happiness, wealth, business. We're going to be interviewing them in this show so that you can learn the secrets to success that they share with practical advice that you can take and use today. So if you enjoy the show, please subscribe, please leave us a review, and please share it with your friends, because if I can help you and you can help others, then we can help more people together and we can all level up our game together. In today's episode, I have with us Steve Sims, who is the founder and CEO of one of the best luxury concierge services called Bluefish, that provides an exclusive lifestyle, concierge, and travel service for corporate executives, celebrities, professional athletes, and other discerning individuals. Steve's helped take people in submarines to see the remains of the Titanic, get on stage and perform with Journey, attend Elton John's Oscar party, and even helped someone get married by the Pope at the Vatican, and much more. These are just a few of the highlights of what Steve has provided for his clients. And he's also the author of the book, Bluefish, The Art of Making Things Happen, where he shares his succinct yet insightful advice, as well as inspiration gleaned from the moving stories of others, so the reader too can transform their life and achieve the impossible. Welcome to the show, Steve. Super excited to have you on, my friend.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
I would love it. I know we had a good banter pre-show, but I would love it if you could give our audience some background on you, because I believe you're a bricklayer, right? Now as we talked about, you've got clients that own countries. So run us through that.
I was a bricklayer, got kicked out of school at the age of 15. I was poor. It stank because being poor is not fun at all. So I started a journey to try and find how to make money by trying to hang around with wealthy people. Ended up launching the world's leading experiential concierge firm. I've had clients wanting to get married in the Vatican by the Pope, closed down a museum in Florence for the ultimate dining experience at the feet of Michelangelo's David. And then for shits and giggles, I had Andrea Bocelli come and serenade them while they're eating the pasta. I've had people having drum lessons with Guns N' Roses, guitar lessons with ZZ Top, walk-on roles on major blockbuster movies. Forbes, an entrepreneur, called me the real-life Wizard of Oz. 4 years ago, wrote a book just because I thought I had to get my story out there, not expecting it to do much. It was called Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen. Shock, horror, surprise, it took off, became a bestseller all over the planet, translated into Mandarin, Chinese, Thai, Vietnamese, Polish, got released in Russian last year. And now I teach, train, and coach all over the planet on how you can do amazing things.
Well, what because I get guests brought to me, and I look at things and I'm like, that sounds interesting. I'd love to talk to this person, because I'm always looking to talk to interesting and inspiring, successful people. And then I started digging into your stuff, and I was like, this can't be real. This is crazy. And I'm not believing it, but I'm looking at it, I'm like, I know this stuff is possible when you got connections and you know how the game works and all of that. But at the same time, for a lot of people listening, it's like that. I don't understand. And I talked to you pre-show. I said, I did all right. And then I started doing really well. And then I started meeting people and knowing other people doing things. And I realized that there are levels to this game and life and what you can achieve and who you can meet. And I've been privileged to meet people like yourself through this show. But can you talk to us about, obviously you made a shift and then you started taking different actions to connect with people. And you had the right idea. I got to meet with rich and famous and successful people. But how did you go about that? If you were, dare I say, quote unquote, a nobody that didn't have existing connections through family or something like that, I'm assuming. How did you make that all start to happen?
Right. So for a start, you're overthinking things. My wife jokingly says, I've never overthought anything in my life. And a good friend of mine, Jay Abraham, said, I've got a greater I can than an IQ. I think about doing something, and then 3 seconds later, I've tried it and failed and become educated on what did or didn't work. Okay. So I try things. As a poor bricklayer, hanging around with poor bikers in a bar in East London, that wasn't going to get me rich. You know, I wasn't going to become successful by hanging out with unsuccessful people. I was a byproduct of the room that I was in. So straight away, I tried to change that room. I started hanging out in wine bars, lobbies of hotels, you know, affluent restaurants, trying to get into network, which I was terrible at. I'm 245 pound of biker, piercings, tattoos. I'm not the kind of guy that you want to bump into in a dark alley at 11:30 at night. Yet here I am trying to kind of like suave it up with billionaires, and it was terrible. My original attempts were god awful, but I ended up becoming a doorman of a nightclub. Now that's what God designed me to be, big and ugly and scary and intimidating. So I became a doorman. And the funny thing was, I started using that, like all entrepreneurs, we try to see how we can opportunize the position we're in. Now, I was a doorman. All the other meatheads on the door just wanted to avoid getting into a fight and go home with pay and flirt with the girls. With me, I used it as a soapbox in order to look at humanity. How do people interact with each other? Could I guess why they were coming out at night? You know, the people that pretend they've got money versus the people that really have got money. And there were tells. And I started to pick up on this. And then I started knocking around with the people that had money going, hey, how you doing? You know, did you go out a lot around here? Yeah, we're always looking for good parties. Give me a number. If I hear about any, I'll let you know. Now, I started off small by becoming a solution to somebody's problem. And as a doorman, I was the solution to their nightlife. All right. So as soon as you become a solution to somebody's problem, they don't care what you look like because you're now a solution. Do you care what the guy looks like that's fixing your car? Do you care what the guy looks like when he's repairing your toilet or your roof or giving you open heart surgery? Do you give a rat's ass what they look like? No, you care that they are adequately trained to solve the problem. So when you become a solution, it doesn't matter that you're a nobody. You're now the solution. So I started doing this with these people, getting them into nightclubs, launch parties, the unveiling of a new Mercedes, trivial little shit. And then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. I started throwing my own parties and only inviting millionaires and billionaires. Why? Why should I invite a poor person? I know what a poor person's like. It's me and it stinks. So I'm not going to hang around with those. So I would only hang around with I was very discriminating, almost to the point of just outright rude. And I would only hang around with wealthy people. Now, that doesn't mean wealthy people are nice people. You know, I met a ton of pricks. But now I started discriminating with that. I was now trying to find wealthy, successful people that were good people. And I started seeing what I could do. Of course, the more people that got more monies, more dreams, more aspirations, I went from throwing parties to people going, hey, I'd love to go to Sir Elton John's Oscar party. Hey, I'd love to sit front row of the Milan Fashion Week. Hey, I'd love to learn drums by Guns N' Roses. I'd love to go backstage and meet Taylor Swift. All of a sudden, these first questions to me, I would sit there and go, whoa, those sound massive. Right, now, how can I do it? And I would focus on how can it be done rather than, oh my God, that sounds amazing. I couldn't do that, which so many people do. Here's a little game for you. You speak to your mates and you go, hey, if you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And they will blurt it out. They will go, oh, race Formula One in Monaco, or fly to the moon, or do this. They will blurt out what they want. And then they will spend the next 2 minutes going, oh, but I'd never be able to do that. Me do that? Oh, God. No. And they will excuse themselves out of it. People spend more effort telling themselves why it can't be done than using their effort to focus on why it should. And that was me. I wasn't going to excuse myself out. I was already poor. I was already a bricklayer. So I never had anything to lose. So I wasn't going to give myself the get out, the effort of going, oh, I could never do that. Why me? Pity, pity, pity. Piss off. I was like, nah, why can't it be me? Why can't I do this? And I just started going forward. And I got turned down a lot of times. And I got the door slammed on me. And I got the phone hung up on me. And I got asked to leave the room a million times. But you know what? every time I offended someone with the bad way to ask a question, I learned how bad I'd asked the question. So the next time I asked a question, I tweaked it and I would get kicked out again. All right, haven't learned it yet, until finally I was being able to stay in the room longer and longer until in the end I was getting the yes. And so I've never failed in my life. I've just become incredibly educated on how it didn't work.
100%. This is really close to home for just thinking about my clients. I coach health professionals in their business, and I see it a lot with our unwillingness to take an action for fear of getting it wrong and failing, instead of looking at, well, if I'm taking an action and a particular result is not produced, what result is produced? Is that an alignment? You know, is it because, you know, to find north, you can figure out where south is, and every other direction, and then the opposite is north. So taking actions and learning, it sounds like a cliche, right? There's no failing, there's only learning. The irony is that it's true. And we hear it a lot on the show with people. It's collectively between people on the show like yourself who are achieving things. It's that kind of mindset. What's your opinion on why so many of us create these excuses? And as you said, excuse ourselves out of the stuff that we want.
We're scared to being laughed at. The bottom line of it is we're in a gotcha society. We love to see you dressed up as a Chinaman at a fancy dress party in 1987, and then show those pictures to show that you are rude and you are you're uneducated and you're not woke, and look at you, how stupid you were. We love to call people out today. We love to take what they say and take it out of context. So people avoid that by not trying. How many times do you see, and you're in New Zealand, I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm British, okay? So we're multicultural, but how many shows are on TV and on YouTube where publicly just like to laugh at people falling over, falling off their skateboard, you know, walking into glass doors, dropping their phone down the toilet? You know, we love to laugh at people. So a lot of people today are scared of trying for fear of being laughed at. You see, you will literally sit in a restaurant, a coffee bar, a bar, and you'll start talking to your mates and you'll be like, oh yeah, I've got this idea and I want to scale it and I want to do this and it's going to do it. And your mates will just glaze over. They will look at you and they think, you're freaking ridiculous. He's gone mad. Someone's consumed him and replaced him with a moron. And what will you do? You'll then dilute your dream. You'll go, oh, what am I talking about, lads? I'm happy working in the sandwich shop. And they're like, whew, that was close. You're back now. Those are the wrong people to hang around with. The people I hang around with is I will sit there in front of them and I'll go, I've got this idea and it could do this. And my friends will look at me and go, is that it? That's what you're going to focus on? That? All the effort you're going to put into making just that happen? You're selling yourself that short? They will challenge me to be bigger. So for a start, I think a lot of people are hanging around with the wrong people and they're scared of being laughed at. And do you know the funny thing is? Henry Ford, Disney, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, they didn't give a shit if you laughed at them. They had not a care. In fact, if anything, it gave them fuel. It gave them ammunition that charged them to prove you wrong. And so I think today, quite simply, most people are scared of trying for fear of failure. Once you can reframe what failure is and consume it as education, that's when you become really successful.
To add to that, I feel like, and maybe this is just me, it's almost like failure, and if there's going to be some kind of consequence, like I don't know what it is, I can't put my finger on it, but you know, if I do wrong, if people see it a certain way, if they don't like it, there's going to be some kind of consequence. So and for me, it's very much like an untouched thing, right? It's like, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to get in trouble or something's going to happen. So I better keep my head down a little bit more than stepping up and going, you know what if this is possible? What if I can achieve this? What if I do this? Because I think that, I think it was, I don't know if it was Elon Musk who said in an interview recently, but and I've definitely heard it before. It's like people all feel the fear. It's not like they are fearless. They just do it anyway. And something that I've been working on a lot is genuinely not being interested in what other people's think, feel, or have opinions on of me. If my intentions are good, then worrying about what anybody else is thinking is completely counterproductive, because we're the only species on the planet that stresses about things that happened in the past and worry about what could be, instead of just actually moving forward. Like, how many times do we stop ourselves from doing things, like you said, for fear of failure, and it's all like, it's not real. It hasn't eventuated.
I've got an annoying name dropping story for you. I was actually doing an event with Elon Musk at SpaceX in Hawthorne, just south of us here in Los Angeles. And I was walking through the factory of SpaceX. So there's nothing but bloody rockets either side. If you don't know what the inside of SpaceX looks like, and this is true, all right, look up Iron Man, okay? The Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man, because right at the beginning on the first movie, he walks through Stark Enterprises. That was actually SpaceX that he walked through. And they actually have Iron Man's costume right at the front of the factory when you walk in to show off, you know, that it was part of the movie. But that's SpaceX. So I was walking through there with Elon, and I had a client with me. And I've got to be honest with you, he was a little bit of an irritating mongrel, because he was trying to get into a conversation with Elon. And Elon was on his way to have a event with the rest of my clients. And so he was, you know, a bit shy and getting ready. He's quite an introvert. And he didn't really want to have a conversation with my client. But my client was like, hey, what do you think of this? And oh, yeah, and trying to get into a conversation. And the guy turned around and said, oh, how do you feel about NASA always laughing at you about getting into the space industry when you have no qualifications in it? And it was that question which annoyed me. And I was about to slap my client, but it was the only thing that baited Elon to actually get into a response. He didn't look at the client. He just carried on walking, and he said, they will always laugh at you just before they applaud. And that was it. And he's accurate. And if you think of anyone out there, no one that did anything great did it by following or caring about anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. They'll always laugh at you right before they applaud. It's the natural thing. What have you noticed with clients when you organize these amazing experiences around perception of lavish lifestyle, crazy experiences, and then reality? I might not have phrased the question correctly, but I've noticed that what I thought was, you know, an amazing dream, this insane thing, and then I go and do it, and I'm like, wow, this is actually just possible and kind of normal if I had have thought about it. Or can I go to Italy was a dream of mine. And then I kind of just booked a ticket and, you know, went there, and I'm like, oh, I'm standing on Lake Como. Like, people dream about this, and I dreamed about it. I'm kind of just here, like this, I don't know quite what to call it, but we think about things and think they're impossible. And then we can actually, if like you literally do, just make it happen. And the reality is,
every day I wake up thinking, and this is helps me be grateful. I realize I'm living somebody else's dream. You know, I'm living up here in the hills in Los Angeles, riding my bikes around the beach and the hilltop. I realize I'm living someone else's, you know, fantasy. But the thing is, most people, and we've said this earlier, they try to sell themselves short. Oh, that could never be me. Why can't it be you? Why are you using so much effort to depict where you can't go to, rather than just going, I'm going to look for a cheap flight. I may have to do 15 stopovers, but I'm going to get there, you know? And it's the way that happens. A lot of people come to me, and I love this, with the expectation that it can't be done. So that when I actually achieve it, not only have I blown their mind, but I'm now the boasting thing to all of their mates. And so in which case I get way much more other business, because they're like, did you see me doing this with the rock band Journey? Did you see me over here with Manchester United? That was because Steve Sims did it. And all of a sudden I became an asset to these people. But I've always been stunned at how many people sell themselves short in business, in marketing, in relationships. How many people do you know settle for a partner because they think, I can't get better than that, so I'm gonna settle it. I love them, but hey, that's as good as I can get, ridiculous. How many ugly people do you see with absolutely stunning women? Truthfully, yeah, I'm not the prettiest guy on the planet. My wife, absolutely gorgeous. Love her because I had standards. Okay. And a lot of people settle. Never settle on your standards. You want your goals way out there. And as I always say, in fact, I'm writing a second book now, Go for Stupid, and it won't be out for a year. So, you don't have to worry about making a note on that. But I train and teach people how to go for ridiculous goals that are laughable, whether it be goals in their business, whether it be goals in their relationships. Go for something that's not achievable, because what the hell do you know is achievable? You've never tried. Have laughable goals. I want to row a boat across Lake Como. I want to sip wine in Tuscany. I want to walk the catacombs of the Vatican. I want to meet the Pope. Who in the planet has the right to tell you that that can't be done?
The more that I've definitely noticed, the more that I stretch, the more that I think big, and the more that it becomes real to me, the more I have to make it happen, and the easier it becomes, because it's not something that because a lot of people, and maybe you can speak to this, a lot of people will say, oh yeah, well, I set big goals, but it's like I'm 1% in on that goal because I was never actually in pursuit of it. And I've noticed for myself, when I'm in pursuit of something, having that stretch gives me this drive, this urgency to go and get it. And it's only the things that I have urgency with that I actually see through and ultimately get to. It's the stuff that I half-ass that you're like, that'd be nice, but you never go for it. Can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, so there's a few things to break that down. A lot of people don't have goals. They devise lists, okay? They build up these lists and go, oh, that's my goals. No. It's a list. A goal is something you go towards. A list is where things go to die, Secondly, the mindset is that we always get what we must get, what we need, like our mortgage, our bills, our car payments. We always get what we need. We don't get what we want. So if you can make your wants a needs, which was the first defining factor I had, I needed a Ferrari. I needed to travel around the world first class only. I needed to do this. You start getting it because your mindset goes, well, I'm going to book a ticket. I'm only getting a first class ticket. I'm going to get a car. I'm only going to get this. Now, once you've got those things, you go, like I don't even have a car now. I haven't had a car for, 25 years. But there was a time when I was younger that I needed to have a Ferrari because I thought that would cement me as a very successful person. So you've got to straight away stop making lists, make goals. To make goals, you've got to create momentum. When someone said to me, hey, I want to get married in the Vatican by the Pope, I went, fine, that's the goal. What is the first step towards it? And it wasn't contact someone in Wyoming or New York. It was contact someone in Rome. Do you know anyone in the Vatican? No. Phoned another one. Do you know anyone in the Vatican? No. I think the 8th phone call, I actually do. Please put me in touch. Can you help me do this? No, but I need to put you over here. Start the momentum, getting closer and closer and closer. I don't know how many people I went through to finally get to the actual people that could make it happen. Painfully a lot. And I told you about my feelings on it, earlier before the show. A lot. But I got there. And I got there because it was a goalpost. And a goalpost is something you move towards. You don't just stare at. So are you developing a list of goals or are you developing a list? And if it's a goal, and I'll give you another example. In my studio, I have a Ducati Hailwood, 1985 mint concourse Ducati Hailwood. You may have never heard what it is, and it doesn't matter. But when I grew up, this was my ultimate motorcycle. I have about 20 something now. And this was my pinnacle. Oh my God, if ever I could have that motorcycle. So about 12 years ago, I bought the key ring of that motorcycle. I actually went as far as to find out, when you bought that motorcycle, what was the key fob you got? And then I went on eBay and I found the company that had those, and I bought the key fob. I created the momentum and the steps towards me getting it. I couldn't afford it, 15 years ago, but I got the key fob and I kept hold of that key fob until I found the right bike to attach the keys to it. I didn't get it until I think like about 6 years ago. But I started the momentum. I got the books on it. I read up on it. I got the magazine. I even bought the sales literature. I went on eBay and I bought the original catalogs for that Hailwood. I was creating momentum to get me closer to my goal, and I have it. So you've got to find out, what is your goal? Get it off a list, get it into a goal, and what is the first piece of momentum? If you want to go to Lake Como, start reading up on Lake Como. Start watching YouTubes on Lake Como. Understand what Lake Como is. Understand where it is. Okay. Get a bit of knowledge on it. And then maybe watch some movies, maybe even go and start learning Italian, start getting yourself towards that goal by creating momentum. And you're right. The bottom line of it is, the second you start stretching yourself and not only asking more of you, but demanding more of you, you have a horrible, shocking chance that it's actually going to happen. And then when it happens, that's your new normal. How many times have you gone, oh, I can't achieve this? And then you've achieved it and you've gone, well, that's my new benchmark. That's my new level of normality. My wife now will only fly a certain standard because that's the standard that we play at now. And anything less, hey, that's settling. You don't go back. Never, ever lower your standards. Once you've hit that new plateau, stay there. If you can't afford to increase, don't go under. Never lower your standards.
I really felt that normalizing of what's possible when my wife and I and first child, when he was younger, went to Italy, and we flew their economy class and had a horrible time. Screaming kid, came back and said, this is shit, not going to do that. Flew business class back, and I went, holy crap, I am never going back to sitting in economy. And from that point on, I said, well, what must I do to make it happen that no matter where I go, I'm having this experience? I got picked up in a black van by Emirates with bottled water in it, and they drive me there, and I'm jumped to the head of the queue, and I go on when I want, and I get off first, and all of these things. I went, this is just how it is now.
Yeah.
And I normalized it.
It absolutely is.
So let me ask you, what was an experience that you set up that you thought, this is awesome, I'm kind of jealous, I'd love to have thought of this myself or gone and done it myself, but you yourself were excited almost more than the client when you got it set up? Is there anything?
Beautifully, all of them. You see, here's the daft thing. I have clients that want to do XYZ with Guns N' Roses. I have to communicate with Guns N' Roses, hang out with Guns N' Roses, set it up with Guns N' Roses, be there at the beginning of the event, be there at the end of the event to clear it up. The client turns up for 1 hour in the middle, and I've ended up with a 6-week relationship with Guns N' Roses. So every single thing, I had the dining experience I did in Florence. I took over the Accademia della Galleria, the museum that houses Michelangelo's David. At 9 o'clock at night, set up a table of 6 at the feet of David. And then during that meal, I had Andrea Bocelli come in and serenade him. Now, the client turned up at 8:45 and he left at 11. I turned up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I hung out from 5 o'clock till about 9 o'clock with Andrea Bocelli. And then I stayed there until 12:30, just wallowing in the fact that I was in my own museum, in Italy at gone midnight. And I owned the museum for those few hours. So my client got, 1.5, 2 hours out of it. And I was on like 5 or 6. So every single experience I've done, the Vatican, the amount of times I got to walk around the Vatican with security passes, past the Swiss guards, had my own little security card. I got all of that for 6 months to set up a 2-hour experience. So there's many times that I am overloaded on the experience that I'm like, damn, I never thought I'd be here. wow, this is really good. I'm here with so and so. So I always get way more out of it than the clients ever did.
Do you now sort of select the ones that you're going to do because there's a bit of like, what am I interested in setting up, or is that more of your
Well,
elite clients? You just got other people doing the other stuff that's
no, it basically 4 years ago when I got asked would I do a book, and I was approached to do the book, and I said no, I'm not going to do that, because the original book they asked me, can you name names of clients, and I said no, and then this was the book that ended up coming out. I said no, I'm not going to name clients, and they said, well, hang on a minute, as a former bricklayer and bouncer, can we focus on that and how you manage to do these things? So when I released the book, to be blunt, I got paid really well, ridiculously well. And I never thought it's going to go anywhere. I never thought it was going to be a career for me. I never thought of anything like that. And it changed my world. So to be honest with you, I stopped doing the concierge business probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And I have a community called Sims Distillery that I work with people online on how to do this stuff now. So I'm now finding that my old excitement was spending billionaires' money, giving them amazing cocktail stories. My new chapter is taking entrepreneurs, getting their head out of their ass and getting them to do more for their family, for their business, for their marketing, for their branding, to be in a position to be able to spend that money on stupid experiences. So I've changed the way that I work now. I still have a few of those clients left, and I still do things with them now and then, because let's be honest, who the bloody hell wouldn't? It's just ridiculous. It's just fun, the rooms you can get into and the people you get to communicate with. But it's not my main business now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I want to know what the hardest one to get done was. What did somebody come to you, Vatican, when they said it to you? Did you think this is crazy? Like when was that the one that you thought was going to be the hardest, or was that the one that just turned out to be the hardest?
If you think of something's going to be hard, if you think something's going to be impossible, if you think something's going to be awkward and going to be a nightmare, then guess what it ends up being? So anything that's ever come to me, I've gone, all right, where do I go first? That ignorance, that zealous kind of upbeat, childlike mentality of kind of like, all right, what do we do? And that kind of curiosity has got me through some incredible things. But the Vatican, and we can't go into it too deep, the red tape, the paperwork, the departments, the layers that you've got through, that cost me years. It actually only took about 6 months, but it took years out of my life and my patience. And to say you've got to be a saint to do it again, maybe sound a little bit of a pun, but oh my God, it was horrific how it just drained on you. But no, I never ever looked at it that, oh my God, this is going to be hard, because then you dictate it's going to be. I just went for it. It just got very monotonous and very laborious and constantly just, the kind of stuff you had to do and the kind of stuff you had to put up with. And when you're dealing with a hundreds-year-old, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of year-old establishment, that doesn't exactly move at a fast pace, it really can get very frustrating. So that became frustrating. That was the toughest one to pull off. But no, never look at anything as hard. Never look at anything as challenging. In fact, change it. Look at it as a game. Look at it as excitement. Look at it as a challenge. Oh, I've been challenged to do this. Oh, I wonder if I could do it. I reckon, and my wife tells everyone this, I'm a curious 5-year-old. I'm the guy that goes, oh, how do we get down to see the Titanic? Oh, how do we get them to open up the secret vault that no one gets to? Oh, how do I get into the penthouse at Tiffany? Oh, how do I get all of these kind of things? If you walk into it with that kind of curious excitement, you'll be amazed at what you pull off.
What's your advice to someone listening to this who is grinding away in their business and they've got dreams on their list? They want to lift themselves up and out, but they feel like, I just got to keep going, because if I don't, I'm going to lose this progress. and they're on that path to waking up one day and going, holy crap, it's been 20 years and I'm no closer to doing what I want. And now I'm starting to get too old to, and I've got this fear of that. How do they break that?
Yeah, I did a video on this a while back, actually. I dictate my week. Okay. You can't disrupt your life if you adhere to a working week. If you adhere to somebody else's structure, I work 5 days, I have 2 days off. If you adhere to somebody else's structure, you can't be in control of disrupting your own. So I actually started doing track days, where I race motorcycles around racetracks, on a Wednesday or on a Monday, or I will literally go away for a couple of nights with my wife on a Tuesday night. I control my week, because this is what happens. You're playing on a Tuesday when everyone else is working. You suddenly feel grateful about that. And then when you start work the following day, you're excited and grateful that you got to play yesterday. See, understand, we work to do the things we want to do. We don't work to do the things we don't want to do, which is what a lot of people do. They get in that grind and, oh my God, I can't stop doing this. I've got to keep doing it. If you don't reward yourself, by taking the family out for a meal, taking your wife out for breakfast in the morning, and then going to work, then you become very laborious and monotonous, and you can't disrupt and create when you're in that state of mind. So literally, I just play. I will literally go away on a Sunday, a Monday, a Friday, whenever I'm in control of what I do in my week. I'll work hard on a Sunday. I'll go playing on a Monday and Tuesday. Okay. But you have to be in control of playtime, because without the playtime, the work time is irrelevant.
I feel that because we have all been, pushed into the structure of you work Monday to Friday.
Yep.
You then have a weekend.
Yep.
And then you go back to work. And so the feeling of just shifting that enough to go out on a Tuesday or a Wednesday for a trip, and then you work on a Sunday, just even thinking about it is strange. But you've got to shift it, because otherwise, like you said, you're in somebody else's structure. You can't disrupt things for yourself.
And a lot of people work on hours and not impact. Okay.
Mm.
How many times have you actually, you've got your working week of 5 days, something's happened for 2 of those days, and then all of a sudden you've only got a 3-day work week. You end up working really, really hard because, oh my God, I've got to catch up on all of this work, but you do it. You end up doing 5 days work in 3. Well, imagine if you could do 5 days work in 2 by missing out on all the shit. A lot of people go, oh, I've been doing this for 15 hours. Gives a crap. How many of those hours have you been impactful? How many of those hours have you been focused? How many of those hours have you just been sitting there with a cup of coffee, watching the screen going, oh God, I hate my life. So if we focus on the impact rather than the hours, I'll get up in the morning, I'll check all of my emails while the coffee's brewing, and I'll leave the ones up there that I've got to work on. Okay. Get rid of all the other shit. So I've cleaned out. And then what I'll do is I'll go for a walk with the dog, go and have breakfast with my wife. 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, I'll do something for a couple of hours. Like after this interview, I'm going for a bike ride across the beach. Why? Because I can. Then I'll come back and I'll probably do a couple of hours work at the end of the day, and then I'll go back. I focus on the maximum impact I can get out of a minute versus the amount of minutes I'm actually working on something.
Productive versus busy. We get caught up in being busy as a distraction, I think, too. Let me ask you, last question here. What's the most important thing you ever learned?
Actually, it's probably my dad. My dad was this big, thick Irish lad. And I remember one day, for no reason whatsoever, and I was a teenager and we were walking through London, he was smoking like a chimney, and he just turned around and he went, son, no one ever drowned by falling in the water. They drowned by staying there. And that was it. He just then walked off. And I thought, that's the craziest bloody thing I've ever heard. But I realized it's true. You drown by staying in the water. And so as entrepreneurs, how many times do we fall in the water? How many times do things go wrong? So for that reason, I realized I was in control of whether or not I stayed there.
That's a hilarious and amazing story. And I wish I could drop some knowledge like that on my sons just randomly out of the blue. I love
Take
that.
that. Drop that on him.
Yeah, it's so true though. Yeah, because we go swimming, right? We go swimming.
Yep.
It's just you stay there too long without breathing. Where can our audience connect with you online? Where can I find out more about creating amazing experiences in my life? Not just my audience. I want to be selfish here because this sounds amazing.
Sure. Well, I have obviously I do private coaching, but I have a community that I do a lot of live AMAs with, Ask Me Anything. And that's at Sims Distillery. That's my private online community. And it gets you into my private Facebook group as well. But you can find me at Steve D Sims everywhere. D for dashing and only one M in Sims. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere you like. But if you want to get in with my community, simsdistillery.com, get to hang out with me, chat with me in my Facebook community and on my live feeds.
Amazing. I really appreciate you, Steve. This was very insightful, and it's confirmed some things for me that I need to look at further my own. So I appreciate you, and thank you so much for coming on.
I'm glad it helped. All the best.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Everything shared will be in the description of the episode, so you can go and grab that. Now, if you enjoyed the show and you want to listen to more, please subscribe, because every week we're releasing new episodes with inspiring people, successful people, so you can level up your game. So subscribe and also leave us a review. We'd love to hear feedback about the show and your thoughts and opinions there as well. Now, if you want to have more success, whether it's in your life, whether it's in your business, we run live trainings every single week where you can get access to me to coach you through everything from health, wealth, success, business. We're doing topics on all things that you need to live a better, more inspired and successful life. Live trainings every single week. Just visit jamesneilsonwatt.com/live and you can get access to that. Now, there's also a ton of resources that you get for just listening to the show. All of that will be in the description. So if you're watching this on YouTube, check the description. If you're listening to this episode, check the description. We've got a load of resources there for you to have more success in your life, whether it's relationships, investing, or in business. I'll see you on the next episode. And as always, subscribe, leave a review, and tell your friends, because there's somebody else that needs to be hearing this, and maybe you're their opportunity to help them level up their game.